And we are live. Welcome to this NFL Draft edition of the Fun v Tailgate podcast presented by ThunderblogSports.com, a part of the Bullpen Cart podcast feed. I, of course, am the G-Man, Jordy Cannell, and joining me is our draft expert, A1, Mr. Matthew DiStefano. What's up, buddy?
Well, I am a draft. Who is really a draft expert? We were just listening to the clip of former Colts general manager just bash through poor Mel Kiper. But I got to tell you, not only is it draft week, which is a huge week for me personally, because for some reason I have such a love for it, but it's been a huge sports week, dude. This is it. Like we talked about it last week, but oh my God, like last night, there's NHL Game 7s. There's playoff basketball in the NBA, which has been incredible. We're obviously there's baseball, and then the NFL comes and starts to take over again, like they always do this week. Dude, there's just so much. Thank God there isn't a golf major this weekend, dude, because I don't think I could handle that. Okay, overload.
The second half of April, the beginning of May, because then we get everything. That's all. We get all like the Kentucky Derby, the PGA is in May now. You mentioned it. This week though has been absolutely insane. We're recording this Wednesday night. Tuesday night, the 2 Game 7s in the NHL. The Bruins beating the Leafs, knocking Canada out of the playoffs, and then probably one of the best playoff hockey games this year, easily, and probably in the last couple of years, of the Sharks coming back against the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas blowing a 3-1 series lead. And then our Sixers. The Sixers holding the Nets to 0 points through half of a quarter of playoff basketball. Granted, they weren't shooting well at all, but their defense looked great, and something that you're really excited for as a Sixers fan going into a second-round matchup with the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be a wild series, right? The East is loaded.
Yes.
I think top 4 seeds in the East are stronger than top 4 seeds in the West. I'm not discrediting the Warriors, the Rockets, or even the Trailblazers, who Dame Lillard is looking like the best player on the planet right now. But Nuggets, I just think in terms of the matchups, the juiciness of the matchups, other than Warriors Rockets, like the East, man, the East is going to be crazy, dude.
Yeah, the second round of that's going to be absolutely insane. The Bucks and Celtics renewing that series from last year, where at the end of it went to 7, and you just wanted more and more of it. Where, can Giannis get over the hump? I'm just stating facts of what happened 18 years ago, Matt. But The Sixers played the Raptors in the second round of the playoffs, and then they played the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. They didn't play the Pacers, but the Yahoo bracket has them right next to the Pacers like they did in 2001. So, that's something. Let's just do a little connect the dots, like how Josh Allen's tall, like last year. There's a lot. There's a lot to be had. There's a lot to be had here.
I agree. Yeah. By the way, just to keep everybody updated, Wednesday night, right now, Jazz and Rockets battling in Houston. Rockets with the chance to eliminate the Jazz, and kind of the expectation is Golden State will beat the Clippers tonight, which means if the Rockets can't somehow pull it out in Game 5, they're going to be playing more and they'll have shorter rest with older stars. So I think they both the Golden State and Rockets need to close it out tonight.
Yes. Are you glad that the NBA finally decided to just let the next series go? Because the Sixers and Raptors are scheduled for their Game 1 on Saturday. And if the Spurs and Nuggets go to 7, they would play Saturday as well, which I'm really glad that they started doing that. I didn't really like the whole wait for the series to finish up.
So deal. I don't mind doing that between – I don't mind like the East and the East. So look, like I wouldn't – let's say the Rockets and Warriors had swept their opponents.
Their opponents, yeah.
And the Nuggets and Spurs were going to battle till 7 games. I think I wouldn't want the Rockets and Warriors to start before that other series ended in the West. Like I want to
like the potential opponents for the next round. Those 2 series start. That's fair, yeah, because that Celtics Bucks is Sunday, yeah.
First of all, it depends on if you think rest is a good thing. This is actually a conversation in sports in general. If you think but not regular season, but during the playoffs, if it's good to rest
Mhm.
because sometimes you lose that rhythm.
It's the
You lose
'07
that
Rockies.
energy.
It's that theory. They won too quickly, and the Red
Right.
Sox went to 7 games. That's why they swept the Rockies.
Right, exactly. So I definitely think it's better. I like a rhythm. I don't necessarily need 7 games, but I
Yeah.
think if you're some of these teams now, I know you might have older vets. You know, if you think about like Chris Paul, could certainly probably use a little bit of time off.
Mhm.
But part of me is keep that rhythm, keep that because you want to make. I mean, look, I know the intensity is racked up in playoffs across all sports, but it's also in the moment. You want to just be doing things unconsciously. You want to be in that regular season rhythm. You may rack up your defensive intensity. You may be focusing harder, but you want business as usual. You know, like so. I'm a bigger fan of letting it roll, but that's me. I would rather. I don't know. I'm not a bye week guy. I'm not a longer delay guy, but
Yeah,
some players probably like that.
the only time that I really am against, well, I agree, roll it in the playoffs. The bye week also annoys me in football specifically because there's teams. The Eagles once again are on this list, but there are teams who get just the real short end of the stick of teams that get so much more rest, and you can say, all right, just beat the teams on your schedule. That the Patriots have the largest proportion of their games or largest number of days off, I think is what the actual stat is, of their opponents for this upcoming year, either teams coming off buys or teams that played Thursday night football, so on and so forth. The Patriots are doing the Patriots thing of saying, we're going to beat the guys on our schedule. We're, Seattle, what Belichick says. But
Right.
there is something to it. In 2016, the Eagles had that where they got kind of boned that way, and then the next year they didn't. And we had rookie Carson versus sophomore Carson, so there's that too. But I don't know. There is something about it. But in the playoffs, 1,000%, keep it rolling. But I like that thought. That's a good thought of as long as your next round opponent also gets that of keeping it at least somewhat similar. I'd be fair. I'd be fine if you started maybe a day or two earlier so that to reward you for winning quicker, you and your opponent,
Yeah.
whoever ultimately pulls it out, but keep it at least close enough. What I dislike
Yeah.
is 2 years ago where we had a week and a half of no basketball because the Cavaliers and the Warriors swept everybody because ABC had to fucking fill their schedule out.
Right. I get that. I get it to an extent. I guess I like the happy medium, kind of play it as it lies, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I know that's not the easiest thing to do, but yeah, I'm with you. With like I said, across all sports, I think there's two very distinct. It's like resting guys at the end of the NFL season. A lot of times that backfires.
Oh yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Right.
Although, I mean, sometimes if you're doing it
It
just so that
doesn't.
you don't have to go after a record, all 4 major sports, either teams that hold the record for wins never won a championship, as now proven by Tampa Bay losing.
There you go. Right.
Yeah.
You are correct. It's amazing.
Yeah,
What do you think
incredible.
about that? Tampa Bay didn't just lose, by the way. They got shellacked.
They
But
got
I digress.
Yeah. So let's go. Let's jump into football. We can talk all the other sports all we want. So the NFL draft in Nashville this year. Matt, I don't know if you've seen pictures of it. It's been all over. It looks incredible, right on Broadway. Are you excited that obviously it was here 2 years ago. It was in Chicago last year. I know it was in Dallas last year. It was in Chicago 3 years ago. Are you excited that they've kept up with this, this countrywide tour of going to every different stadium and especially going to a place like Nashville? Is that something that you'd like to see them continue doing?
Yes. At first I was against it. I wanted it back here, but now I realize it's a really cool opportunity for each one of these cities to host. And I love the fact they're going to Nashville. I hope they hit a lot of these major cities. And kind of go after it. I honestly wouldn't even be opposed if they did it in a different country. If they went to London one year, or I don't know if they can go over to Asia. That might be too difficult. But I do. I think it's really fun. It was a great venue at the Art Museum steps for Philly. It was. I hate to say it. I hate the team loved the house. It was really cool to have it in Jerry World. We'll see what Nashville does. I'm sure they can put on a show. There's a lot of iconic places across the country where they could host the draft, and I think it's a good idea to kind of bounce it around and pick some of these cool spots. They could do it down in New Orleans. They could do it somehow do it near Bourbon, down by the water somewhere.
I feel like New Orleans is the natural next city. They're like LA.
If LA.
I feel like LA will do it whenever that new stadium opens. It'll be concurrent with that.
Though. LA might be able to do it somewhere down in Hollywood at a famous locale there's some really cool options there for him.
I mean,
I think they're
ESPN
definitely
broadcasts the thing. They have the Disney lot. It's
right,
a slam dunk. Yeah.
right. Yep, I'm with you. Yeah.
Vegas, whenever the Raiders finally move there,
hmm hmm
that would be. Oh my God. Have you ever heard some of the crazy stories? Like, have you ever heard Chris Long's draft story where like his friends got him kicked out of the hotel the night before the draft for like burning mattresses? Could you only
Right.
imagine that
That'd
in
be,
Las Vegas?
oh my God, it'd be wild. I definitely think they'll do it in Vegas at some point. I mean, that makes way too much sense to me.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
Oh
see.
yeah. Easily.
We'll see.
Yeah. And then I mean, if you have it somewhere like Detroit or Minnesota, you get more of those pictures like Kyle Long out fishing with his dad. Remember that?
That's true. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was really cool. I love it. I honestly don't even mind when players stay with their families or
No,
wherever they're
not at
from.
all.
It's cool. I like having
It's
some of
cool
them
to
there.
see him come up with Goodell, but I mean, at the same time, it's your moment. You're
Do
the
it where
next
you're
part
most
of your.
comfortable. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really get a choice of where you're going. You might as well get a choice of where you're getting the call.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It should be a hell of a draft this year, by the way.
Yes.
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
it's one of the more intriguing drafts because, first of all, this is a defensive heavy draft, and it's particularly devoid of offensive playmakers, in particular early in the draft. There are some guys, but early in the draft, this is a defensive heavy draft. There's obviously quarterbacks everybody's talking about. The other weird thing, though, is if you look at the top, I mean, I'll tell you, the top 10 picks. So I'll give you the order. Cardinals, 49ers, Jets, Raiders, Bucks, Giants, Jaguars, Lions, Bills, Broncos. Now, normally there's multiple quarterbacks taking the top 10, and I'm not saying there won't be, but theoretically, the Cardinals have Josh Rosen. They drafted him in the first round last year.
Yep.
49ers have Jimmy Garoppolo. Jets have Sam Darnold. Raiders have Derek Carr. Bucks have re-upped Jameis Winston. The Giants re-signed Eli Manning. The Jaguars just dumped a ton of money into Nick Foles. The Lions have Matthew Stafford. The Bills have Josh Allen. The Broncos have Joe Flacco. So theoretically, none of those teams I just named are required or even have a – you could argue that their front offices don't think they have a desperate need for quarterback.
Yeah. That's a really good point, though.
Man. I think
it's absolutely fascinating. And I mean, we'll talk about the first pick in a few minutes here, but I mean, you hit the nail on the head with Josh Rosen. I mean, they took him in the first round. Almost every mock draft you have.
Last year. Statistically, he had for a rookie quarterback with limited weapons. I know Larry's a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
But David Johnson wasn't himself again.
No.
You know, the offensive line struggled. I mean, this was the worst team in football, hence they have the number 1 overall pick. Yeah.
But I've heard a couple really good points of like that guys like Mitch Trubisky didn't really have a good team around him his first year. Jared Goff had a subpar team around him his first year. Like guys, you know, I mean, Carson Wentz, the Eagles didn't play very well in his first year, and he look at that second year that he had. I mean, all these top quarterbacks, they had really shitty teams, and yeah, they went out and made some really good signings, some good trades too. But you know, they still had higher picks. They missed the playoffs in their first years with these guys, and look what they've been able to do. I mean, especially the Rams, who went to the Super Bowl, and they did this all while moving. I mean, obviously the Eagles won the Super Bowl, but we can talk about Nick Foles and all that another time. But you know, I think the Cardinals, it'll be really, really intriguing to see what they do. And do you want to just jump right into that first pick and talk about what the Cardinals should? What do you think they should do, and what do you think they will do?
Yeah, I mean, this is I got to tell you, I don't envy GM Steve Keim and head coach Cliff Kingsbury here, because this might be the most difficult choice of the draft. You know, the problem is they've kind of they may have waited too long to try to trade Josh Rosen and get any value for him if they want to go Kyler Murray, excuse me. They have to think he's the best quarterback in this draft. They have to think he's a transcendent star like Baker Mayfield. Mayfield's kind of paved the way for this pick, by the way. I mean, he really has because just like Kyler, undersized, both Oklahoma guys, both Heisman Trophy winners. If I was the GM, I wouldn't take Kyler Murray. I would trade this pick for whoever wants it. I'd find the best value I can. You call the Raiders and see if John Gruden wants him. You call the Giants, see if they want number 1, and you see if you can get their pick in a first round and a second round or something. I trade back personally. and I roll with Josh Rosen. I think they're going to take Murray, and I think they're going to try to trade Rosen. And I basically Cliff Kingsbury is tying himself to Murray, and you know what? It may work out in fashion, or might just burn and crash and burn. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's a really good point. A lot of the Josh Rosen trade stock a lot of that price comes out of the time value. There certainly is the skill that you're acquiring there, but yeah, now that there isn't much time and you're trying to figure it out, even probably trading back the pick, you're not going to get as much as you might have been able to a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Josh Rosen, though, that time value probably it's still a little bit, but it drastically expired a month ago. And
it did.
Figuring out what you wanted
into that corner, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now you're putting yourself into a position of you're either looking to dump this pick either tomorrow morning, tomorrow when you're on the clock, whatever your deal is, or you take Kyler Murray and now you have to figure out something to do with Josh Rosen, and instead of getting, I don't know what they could have gotten. Not great at draft pick analysis because I thought us getting J.H.I.E. for a 4th round pick was a steal, but that's just the running rate. That's the running rate for running backs, as it seems. Right. So my point being is that if they trade Josh Rosen, A, who's going to be the dance partner to go there, and B, do they have the goods that Arizona wants for this? Because being picky, you're not really in the position to be doing that. But if they decide to trade the pick back, who would be a likely dance partner to try to jump up there? Who's the draft day Cleveland Browns, if you will?
I mentioned the rate. Good reference. I mentioned the Raiders because apparently Gruden is in love with Kyler Murray. I just think the hard part there is Derek Carr and his albatross contract. I don't know what you have to cut him and eat that dead money. There's a lot of potential issues there, but I could totally see him doing it. I think kind of the one that's under the radar here is I'm really on the fence, but at number 13 sits the Miami Dolphins with Ryan Fitzpatrick as their starter.
Okay.
Now, some people have said, and I actually like their current plan, they're kind of doing a organic rebuild, and I think they're kind of thinking, all right, we've got guys like Tua, Trevor Lawrence coming out in the next couple of years. There's a couple other prospects. Let's just wait until next year and get our quarterback. But this is a bold move. If they had going to cost them a lot of picks to do it. But if they think Kyler's the answer, they actually have a decent roster on that team. It's been quarterback play to an extent that's kind of held them back. So they've got weapons in Devontae Parker and Kenny Stills. They've got Kenyon Drake at running back. Not as bad of a team as you think. This is where they could make their move. It would cost a lot, but they're my dark horse, to jump up, I think. Other than the obvious candidates of the Raiders and the Giants, who I think. It's not in the Broncos' blood, who are quarterback searching even with their trade. But I don't think it's in the Broncos' blood to make that move up.
No, I would agree with you there. I don't think John Elway's going to make that big of a leveraged move to try to do something like that, especially how the last couple years have gone since winning the Super Bowl. Talk about kind of just a dud of a few seasons since 2015, right? I mean, Jesus. You can say what you will of anybody else, but the Broncos have had a little bit of a rough run there. Yeah, I like that dark horse pick a lot. If I had a pick, I'd think maybe the Giants do. They try to make some sort of splash, but I don't know. I don't know if swapping 1 for 6, number 1 for number 6 on draft day, if the Giants are willing to give up what Arizona would be asking for. And I don't know if both sides come to an agreeable, happy medium to try to make the pick there, because somebody's gonna have to bend and break and really, really want Kyler Murray so much more than the other. And even if Arizona doesn't totally want him, they might just not. I think they want such a high asking price, and they're just realizing now, we could have traded this back, and now they're getting stuck there.
Right. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I think in reality they're probably going to stick with it and pick him. Then it's just a question of what do you do with Josh Rosen, and what will they trade for him, or what will they get to try to trade for him?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the first teams that's going to make a phone call if that happens will be the New England Patriots, offering a 4th round pick.
Yeah,
because I think it's a great potential move for them. The Patriots, the Chargers, and the Giants all apparently inquired at some point about Rosen, just trying to feel out the Cardinals. Yep. Here's the positive. So whatever the Cardinals do, the next 3 teams they don't even care, honestly. The 49ers, the Jets, and the Raiders. Raiders are the wild card. I'll tell you, the 49ers and the Jets have the best position. I'd even argue the Jets have the better position. Most people think the 49ers will take Nick Bosa, who's arguably considered the best draft prospect this year. Just like his brother Joey, a superstar defensive end, seems to check almost all the boxes. The 49ers can take him and go home happy. And then that leaves the Jets with the opportunity to take Quinnen Williams, the excellent defensive tackle out of Alabama, or Josh Allen, the excellent edge rusher out of Kentucky. They could even consider Ed Oliver, who's there, who's another great defensive tackle. They've got a lot of potential options, but I think Williams or Allen comes off the board at 3. Either way, the Jets are going to get an impact defender, which they desperately need.
So coming into the year, last August when we were doing our previews for the college football season, we were thinking Ed Oliver might be a number 1. Can you explain to me and the rest of the audience of just why is Oliver now behind like Quentin Williams, Josh Allen, and Nick Bosa?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Nick Bosa had everything that went on, but what ended up making the difference here? Is it just Ohio State versus Houston, or what's the deal here?
I mean, a couple of things. One, his production as compared to Quentin Williams, who I know played at Alabama, but also played against better offensive lines and better teams, had a very productive breakout. Quentin Williams wasn't even on draft boards. Josh Allen, same way, had been in the spotlight for a long time. Other issue you have with Ed Oliver is he got injured this year. Now, he didn't necessarily fight his way back in, somewhat on purpose, because he didn't want to, injure himself again and then drop even farther down. There's also a little bit, and this is going to sound weird, but there's a tad bit of character concern with Ed Oliver.
Interesting.
Okay. When you're talking about draft, when you're really comparing tomato, some would say, between Williams and Oliver and Allen, these things matter, a little bit. And I think that jumped off the screen and has made some teams a little bit nervous.
Okay.
He is a little bit undersized. So he's going to end up being like 275, 280, which is going to put him in a 3-4 position, a 4-3 defensive tackle position at best. But I will tell you once again, I mean, you watch him on tape, he's a monster. He also has great pursuit.
You're talking about Ed Oliver?
Ed Oliver, yeah. He also has great pursuit. So I think the problem is they're just not exactly sure
what you're getting.
Because of his size, they're not exactly sure where he can go.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the issues there is where's he going to go? Like, where do you put him in the line? I think that you got to just take a look at what the Eagles have done with moving defensive ends to, defensive tackle and defensive tackles out to defensive end. I mean, you can be versatile now because Oliver will play hard every snap. I mean, that much you can know.
For sure.
But he does not have the versatility of Quentin Williams, and he doesn't have the pure pass rush, in particular speed, that Josh Allen will bring to the table, which is why I think he's dropped to even number 4 behind number 5 behind the Michigan product, Rashawn Gary, who's another athletic freak.
Okay.
Yep.
Very nice. Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. There's so much defensive line talent in this draft. It's unreal.
Yeah, and I was about to ask you. I've seen Devin White on a lot of top 5 picks. Where do you see him dropping in? Do you see him going 5, 6?
If there was actually a lock in this draft, I would actually, over Nick Bosa to the 49ers, it would be Devin White to the Bucs. This guy is. I watched him a lot in college. He's as good as it gets, man. He's sideline to sideline. He's a new age linebacker. He's physical, strong, quick. He's intelligent. He's a quarterback on the defensive side. The Bucs just lost Quan Alexander, who signed with the 49ers. So he's an easy candidate to plug and play. Man, I got to tell you, I would honestly, if the Eagles could get him, I would be a happy man. But there's just too much capital to move that far up. He's going to be an immediate plug and play and possibly a Pro Bowler. He's Bobby Wagner Wagner, Luke Kuechly good. I think he's almost as close to can't miss as you can get, to be honest with you, in this draft. He, to me, competes with Nick Bosa for number one overall prospect, not need, but just prospect.
I like it. I was trying to find on my gambling website if they had specific draft positions. They have over-unders. I wanted to tell you the odds and see if you'd take it or not. But no, I like that a lot. Yeah, because I've seen that. I've seen him to the Bucks on pretty much everything to replace guys like Quan Alexander and really fill in that Tampa Bay spot. I forgot to ask you before we jumped off of the Raiders. What do you take about the whole Raiders situation coming into the draft, sending all their guys home? How do you feel about that?
You know, I mean, the Raiders need to. Gruden's doing his thing. Okay, so you can't fault Gruden for being himself, right? But they're adding personality to that team with Antonio, but the expectation is they're going to win. The NFL desperately wants that as they try to go to
Vegas.
As they try to go to Vegas. Yeah, I think that's not, I'm not saying the NFL had any say in this whatsoever. I'm just saying the NFL has an interest for this. I just think Gruden is kind of digging himself, to me, like a little bit of a he better be good or there's going to be some problems. I don't know. I get a little concerned about the Raiders sometimes because it's the Wild West out there right now. I mean, they could trade up for Kyler Murray. I mean, wow, there could be a lot of things happening.
There's a lot. And I mean, obviously they have 3 picks in the first round. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do. I think it's such a, and the correct answer, Matt, would have been you starting with, I'll tell you what, man. That's what reminded me to ask you the question. But there's so much that he can do with this. And whether or not it's trying to, even trading the pick back, I would not be surprised to see him try to pawn this off for another first, swap first rounds and get like a second or a third from a team. I don't know who would be that. This is a real reach for me. I don't know if you say to a team like the Bills, who are looking for defensive talent, could be looking for offensive line talent, so maybe they want to sit where they are at number 9. If you want to go with the Bengals, who are looking somewhere for different players, I mean, defensively is probably where they want to go. You might be able to figure out something with them with swapping picks. But seeing what Gruden and what Chucky's doing at work, it's going to be really interesting tomorrow night to keep an eye out on it. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun night to watch, especially that for those first 5 picks. But back to the Bucks. I mean, I think where they're going with everything that they have, I think they're going to be in a really interesting spot with Devin White, and might not be the greatest season for them in 2019, but I think they're starting to put the building blocks together.
Yeah. I will tell you this: if they're in love with like Josh Allen, I understand the pick, because this is a team that with that division with Ryan and Breeze and even Cam Newton, they need pass rushers, and they don't necessarily always have had them. The Vinny Curry experiment didn't work out. He's back in Philly. If someone like Josh Allen drops, or another defensive guy, I think I could easily see them taking him. But I like the White pick there. I think it's smart for them. They need that replacement, and he'd be a hell of a replacement. I mean, really good. So we'll see.
Yeah. So let's keep it moving. The Giants. You think they're going defensive? You don't think they're going to try to take a quarterback?
I don't think they're going quarterback. Here's the thing: if they're not sold, and I hate to say this because I would love them to take a quarterback that I don't think is going to be any good, but if they're not sold on a quarterback, they don't have to take one. That's a 5-year commitment on a first rounder potentially. That's a lot. I think they are not going to do it. I think they're going to take a very good defensive player. They desperately need somebody. They could totally look defensively, a defensive line, because they just traded Olivier Vernon away. So you could see them going after if somebody falls, like Oliver or Allen. We talked about Rashawn Gary, which I would hate if he went there because it would kill us to have to root against him. The other guy to take a look at is Montez Sweat, the defensive end from Mississippi State, who's good. There's so many, dude. There's so many defensive line prospects that you can take one here and be very happy with the Giants. But that will be what I would do unless they fell in love with one of these quarterbacks: Haskins, Daniel Jones from Kentucky, Drew Lock from Missouri. But I think they're going to go defense here.
Yeah, that makes sense too. It really, I mean, it brings me back to our high school days when the Giants basically did what the Eagles can do of their hockey lines of defensive linemen that just were relentless at the quarterback.
And made them great, man.
Yeah, man. If the big blue machine gets back to where they are, well, let's keep it moving. Jacksonville Jaguars. I've seen TJ Hawkinson from Iowa, the tight end, on a couple different mock drafts. Is that a guy you think is a viable pick for the Jaguars, or you think they should try to continue to bolster their defense?
I think it's a viable pick, and I don't think it's a bad pick.
Yeah.
I think the Jaguars are a little ticked off that there's no elite wide receiver prospect here, because that's what their desperate need is, a big time playmaker on the outside. But I really think they desperately need an offensive lineman here.
Yes.
The two guys that stand out are Jawan Taylor from Florida, who's hyper athletic, very talented, or Jonah Williams from Alabama, who can play tackle or guard and is also very, very good, plug and play right away.
Yep.
I think they have to take one of those two guys. They have to protect their investment in Nick Foles. Foles doesn't need elite receivers necessarily, right? With his ability to get the ball out quickly, got a good offensive line that can hold up for a couple seconds. He'll do the rest. Also want to help Leonard Fournette out. So I think taking the best offensive lineman in their eyes here is the better pick than TJ Hawkinson, who I think is a great tight end prospect. You got to go line out. So I would rather see them go an offensive lineman here. I think it's smart for them as well.
No, that's a fair point. Especially just to, like you said, add any and all protection. And that, I mean, you get a lot of those guys. You mentioned Williams. Andre Dillard's a guy that's hanging up there as well. He could. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go higher than 8 or 9 if he jumps in there. If somebody's really trying to go offensive protection, he's another guy that could be plug and play, offensive tackle, real blindside protection there. Juwan Taylor, you mentioned. I mean,
this also isn't a bad spot.
Through this list is just all big boys, and it's fun to see as a former lineman myself. Not even close to as big as these guys are. But it's going to be. This is a real football guys draft, right?
Yes.
It's not quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs up at the top. This is a return to form.
Well, the Jaguars, Lions, and Bills to me are the prime spot for a trade up. So if there's a team here that wants a quarterback, the Broncos may be one. Hey, we don't want to take any chance that somebody else jumps up. We'll get our guy. Hey, Jaguars.
They do the Trubisky trade.
Let's trade up to the Jags. Couple picks up. Let's say the Dolphins like somebody. The other wild card we didn't talk about is the Redskins. Yes. Alex Smith may never play again. This would be a prime spot. They're at 15. Can they jump up 7, 8, 9, 10, 7, 8, or 9? Because you're going to jump. If you want the quarterback you want, you have to jump the Broncos because they appear pretty set on taking a quarterback. Most people believe. So if I'm the Jaguars or the Lions more so, let's take a look. Let's make a trade and see what we can do and get one of these teams to jump up and take a quarterback that they really want. The Giants have the capital to do it. The Raiders could move up again if they wanted to. Those would be some teams that I think would be interesting to watch in this area.
Yeah, this is probably, like you said, this is a prime spot for trades, a prime spot for really a lot of different, I'm going to use a fantasy football term here, flex picks. You really can find a number of different ways that it can go. Obviously, I just mentioned, and we've been talking a lot about the big boys in here, but you mentioned quarterbacks. You could probably see a team, and I don't think it'd be the greatest move in the world, but see a team try to go after like a Marquise Brown, think that a guy, I'm trying to find other examples of wide receivers, but guys, those speedy skill positions or some D-backs, if they really think that they need to protect themselves here. And I don't think you'd trade up to get them. I don't think a team like the Texans even would try to go up, but certainly trying to protect yourselves. And these picks, I think, become a vital point in terms of where you can flank your opponent in terms of trying to leverage other picks out. Really intriguing spots here. I'm really interested in seeing what the Bills do because I think they need offensive protection probably more than anything. Maybe some defensive help, maybe some linebackers, but
no, I really like them doing. I'm with you. I think they take whoever the Jaguars don't take. So if
Yeah,
the Jaguars
Bills
take Taylor, I think they take Williams. The other guy is Andre Dillard of Washington State. He's a very
Yes.
strong, sound player that could go here as well. That would make a ton of sense. Yeah. Some people love him. Some people don't love him. So Dillard might not go here, but he has an opportunity in this spot. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm with you though. I like the Bills taking an offensive lineman. They've added some receivers. They could try to replace.
They really need to help Josh Allen out because he's another guy, another perfect example that we were just talking about with Arizona. Another team that just had a really tough year of protecting their quarterback and not really a ton last year to help out with. Obviously, they had everything with the Browns trade, and was that going to work out? And it sadly didn't. But like you just mentioned, they made some nice acquisitions, and I think if done right, the Bills could be better. Not make noise, but could be better than 2018.
Right. Oh, I agree. I mean, this is a big pick for the Bills. They need to hit on this one to help, whether it's offensive line. I still don't think they go skill position because of the guys they've drafted, signed in free agency. But I think they need to help Josh Allen. He was on his butt scrambling too much for an elite quarterback. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
By the way, the 10th and the 11th picks could both be quarterbacks. Watch the Bengals. New regime there. Andy Dalton's 32.
I think the Bengals take a quarterback. I haven't seen it in any of the big mock tracks I've been reading, but I think they take a quarterback.
Yeah, and I think
I wouldn't be surprised to see them take Dwayne Haskins, Ohio guy.
I think Haskins and Locke might go 1-1-2 here after Kyler Murray, obviously 1-2. Mm-hmm. I actually like Locke better than Haskins. Locke's stats will always be slightly deflated because he played at Missouri in the SEC. Really like what Drew Lock has. He's got a great arm. He needs to work on a little vision and accuracy, but he could spend a year behind Andy Dalton.
Yep. Are you buying into at all? And we might be spoiling talk for later in the first round. The talk of how quickly Daniel Jones has skyrocketed up.
Yeah, I don't buy into him at all. I don't dislike him. I just don't think he's a high first rounder. I think he's better if a team falls in love with him, trading in to get him at the end of the first. He's like Mitch. We went to Duke, North Carolina. He's like Mitch Trubisky to me, but slightly more traditional quarterback. I'm just not. I struggle a little bit with Daniel Jones. He flew up really fast. You can see he's kind of fallen down a little bit, which makes sense to me.
And for those that don't know, this is the Duke quarterback.
You're right. Which is why you
Richard Jr.
Yeah.
And this isn't the early Duke teams of this decade that did well, almost beat Johnny Manziel. Duke has not been the strongest in the last couple years.
Right. But he's got a lot of positives to him. He's got the skill set. Mm-hmm. He's like a less winning Carson Wentz. I mean, he's not Carson Wentz. I'm not saying that. I just say when you watch him, he shows you some things here or there that make you go, oh, this guy might be able to play. But I think he's more of a project than a plug and play. Mm-hmm. And I'm not taking a project that doesn't have the ceiling of Carson Wentz, right? Who was somewhat, quote unquote, a project, but was drafted second because he had all the intangible. Everything was there. I don't think Daniel Jones has the same ceiling as some of these guys. That's why I don't. That's why I don't see him going high. So
I'm glad I asked now, but I'm also bummed I didn't wait until later in the first round. But yeah, I think you're right, though. I think it's very possible we see Drew Lock, Dwayne Haskins go 10-11. Mm-hmm. To whom, if it's Denver, to Cincinnati, if we see another team try to get in the action. Like we talked about before, I think it's more Denver would be likely to trade back. That's more in their wheelhouse. I think Cincinnati stays pat at 11. I wouldn't be surprised to see them do a Trubisky trade, though. Go up to 9, go up to 10, because they think they might have to. You mentioned that before. They have to get into the top 10 to get Haskins, to get Locke, whoever they have a bigger feeling for. But I'm seeing Brian Burns. I'm seeing other, Devin Bush, a lot of other guys on mock drafts. But I think, like you mentioned, Dalton's getting up there. He seems to get banged up every year. You might want to start looking at the future if you really like Haskins, and the story fits well.
It does. No, it does. It does. Then there's this whole plethora, I think, of really interesting picks here. We don't have to necessarily break down each individual one, but we're going to start to see there's still tons of defensive line prospects.
And offensive line, too. A lot on both sides of the ball.
Line.
A lot of trench battlers.
You're finally going to start to see a little bit of skill players come out. We talked about T.J. Hawkinson, who is a really good-looking Iowa tight end prospect. Packers make sense. You could see him going to another team that needs assistance there. I think he's going to get picked. He actually might even go higher than 12 to the Packers, to be honest. You look at DK Metcalf, who came out of Mississippi. Ole Miss now didn't necessarily overproduce there, but his metrics are off the charts. This is a combine superstar. He also has the guy that played across from him there was A.J. Brown, who also may be a good pick there. He's another guy to kind of watch out for.
Yes.
You talked about Marquise Brown or Hollywood Brown.
Yep.
Great.
Am I wrong to think he's going to go higher, possibly around the high teens or low teens, 13, maybe even 12, 11? Because we always think that these big men are going to go, but then skill positions fly off the shelves. Somebody takes it. Hearts are broken. We saw it 2 years ago. Am I wrong to think somebody might take him 11? Broncos trade down to somebody?
If a team really needs the deep threat, the concern with him is he's not particularly big and he has injury history already. So some have considered him the number one wide receiver in the entire draft. Others have said, look, we're just too concerned with the injury. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, this is where, and the other guy so there's 2 Mississippi wide receivers. There's also 2 Iowa tight ends. Noah Fant is the other guy.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he was higher rated than Hackinson, but Fant's more of a move tight end, so more of a guy who's not a blocker, does not try. So you're going to start to see those guys go here. The other guy that might go is Josh Jacobs, the Alabama running back. He's the only running back that has a legit first-round chance to go. But you might see him jump off the board here too.
Do you think he goes higher, though? I've been seeing a lot of consensus, especially in the Marshawn Lynch retirement news. The Raiders take him at one of their final 2 first-round picks. Or do you think similar to Brown that it's possible somebody's like, we need to take a running back. Let's take him now at 14, 15.
I don't think anybody's going to trade up, right? The Dolphins, it's not a need for them. The Falcons have 2 guys. The Redskins have Darius Geis. The Panthers have McCaffrey. The Giants have – so, no, I think he fits really well if the Raiders want to pull the trigger. I don't think he goes to our Birds, which we're getting to, but that's an opportunity. I actually don't think he goes in the first round, to be honest. I know Barkley went, and I know how good the year he had last year, but you don't need him. There's other guys you can get here. Okay. So we'll see. But no, but I like him. I mean, he's my number 1. So it's not even yet, but I don't know.
Only running back I have NFL.com's up. I have Yahoo's up. Only running back I see on either one right now for the first round. So I mean, yeah, you're right. You're right on target with the so-called experts, MPD.
And we'll wrap it up with some other. We're about to get through the first round here, but we'll wrap. Yeah. We'll talk about some other intriguing prospects out of the first round. But I mean, I'll jump right to our Birds, number 25.
Yep.
Good spot. By the way, good spot to trade down if a team wants to jump in for a quarterback.
Yep.
Here. Where do you, I'll start with you. What are your Howie Roseman? Anything? Running back, wide receiver, offensive line, defense. Where are you going?
I mean, there's a plethora of linemen that's there.
Not even necessarily a player, just where would you go position wise if you were going to go? I mean, in your mind, what do you think is important?
I'd probably go offensive line. Find someone. You've seen injuries the last couple of years. Find somebody to shore that up. At least have a backup. Get somebody groomed to take over. Some of our guys are getting a little bit older. In case one of them goes down, because God forbid somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get banged up. Somebody's going to miss a game. Sure, some of that up. My backup might be it might be the secondary on the defense again, just because of injuries. And I know we've 2 years ago when we made the Super Bowl run, the Eagles did. That was a strong point of it, and it was something I always feared. And part of their problems last year were a lot of injuries in the back end. So that might be a spot that I would think of too. But I mean, I'd be okay with other defensive positions, some linebackers, some D tackles. But yeah, number one, I would put offensive line.
Gotcha. I'm with you as well, by the way. I'm either offensive or defensive line. So if Cody Ford, the Oklahoma guy, is there, he's a tackle guard potentially. If someone like Dillard falls to you, I like that one as well. But if a guy like Dexter Lawrence from Clemson is available,
oh baby,
he would look great. You can find offensive line prospects later.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I think I'll stop is if somehow White's off the board, if Devin Bush, the other consensus first rounder out of Michigan, we are desperate at the line.
Still hanging around.
If somehow he falls, I don't know. I don't think he will, to be honest. I think teams rate him pretty close with White. If he falls to me, it's a no-brainer. You snap your finger and go. We have nothing other than Bradham right now. But I like defensive. I also like the Jeffrey Simmons guy out of Mississippi State. He's got an ACL injury, but we don't necessarily need him right away.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a top 10 talent if he didn't have the ACL tear. He was a fast riser. I'd like him as well. So I'm either offensive or defensive line.
There was a guy who's a consensus number one and had some knee problems and missed a couple of years, and we see how he's done in Philadelphia. So don't let knee injuries out of college fool you.
That's true. Yeah. But so I think they're in a great position, and I wouldn't mind trading back. You can still get some good players at the top of the second. So if a team that wants a quarterback, like say the Giants, wants to trade in, I know they're at home, you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think offensive line, if there's not one you love, I would trade down. It's probably my realistic idea of what the Eagles do. But who knows? Howie's been creative with his picks the last couple of years since regaining the reins.
And go ahead.
No. You finish your thought because I was gonna move on.
Well, I was gonna say 26 to 32 is a huge trade. 25 to 32 is a huge trade in range.
I'd be fine with them trading out of the first round.
Me too. I think it's a great idea. You've watched the Patriots do it for years. Patriots are in a prime spot at 32. They could easily trade out, or they could take a lot of people haven't taken a tight end, which I get. Noah Fant, Irv Smith Jr., the Alabama guy who can move. Or a wide receiver if they maybe want to go that route with, obviously with Josh Gordon's problems, and they don't really have a big guy on the outside. The Rams, the Packers, the Chargers, the Seahawks are all guys who could trade out. By the way, there is an outside chance that no defensive backs go in the first round. Byron Murphy is the consensus number one corner out of Washington. He's not bad, but he's good, but he's not necessarily a high pick. There's a couple other guys. There's a Temple product, Rock Ya-Sin, cornerback out of Temple, who looks like he could be a player. Greedy Williams, who still has one of the best names ever, is a 6'3" corner out of LSU. He was a top 5 pick for a while, but he fell with some combine stuff. You might see him jump back up, but honest to God, there may not be a corner in the first round this year.
That's insane.
Yep. So I'll jump into the second round. I'll just kind of jump into guys who I think have an opportunity that you haven't heard maybe talked about a lot.
Okay.
I want to bring up the kind of number 2 running back, Miles Sanders, the Penn State product, looks to be a do-it-all, more of a pass-catching back, but he graded out really well. He's a target for the Birds. You're going to see him go probably somewhere in the second half. The other guy is Jalen Ferguson, defensive end out of Louisiana Tech, all-time sack leader in the NCAA. He can straight up play, so you might see him go somewhere that I really like. And for me, there's actually 2 quarterbacks, that I think make a lot of sense in the second and third round. That's Ryan Finley out of NC State.
Okay.
Who is probably more of an Alex Smithy kind of guy. Yeah. But my favorite quarterback in this draft is
Finley's got a cannon, too.
He does. My favorite, though, is the gunslinger out of West Virginia.
Oh, baby. Where do you got Will Grier going?
I'm all in on Will Grier. I think he's going to end up going in the third round. I wish he would go higher. This guy, though, he can make NFL throws. He's played in big moments. He's taken care and he's done really good in big moments. Just watch out for him. I think he'd be a good fit for a team that maybe already has a starter. But he could easily go in the third round and make somebody very happy in the third round.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think so? Explain it. Explain it to me. Explain it to the audience. Why just the third round? He was obviously such a big name last year. What distinguishes him from Drew Lock, from Dwayne Haskins obviously had a great year. Kyler Murray obviously had an awesome year. But what doesn't, why does Daniel Jones jump up as a potential first round pick? And Will Grier, who put up these unreal numbers in the Big 12, sit to you as a third round pick?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. One, and this is kind of something that a lot of guys love his leadership, but there is a little bit of trickle effect from he left Florida. He had a really good start in Florida with some off-field issues. In particular, he had, I believe it was not necessarily steroids, but some kind of performance-enhancing drug that he took. So I just think when you're a quarterback, you're looking for somebody that has that no issues kind of thing. And he has a little bit. 6'2", 217. So he's not necessarily huge. Arm strength isn't elite. That's the one thing I've got to say. He can make a lot of great touch throws, but he can't necessarily fire it in. And they've seen a little problems with that. He does interview well. I just think you got a guy who's willing to take some shots. He's made some big time throws. But then again, he also played in West Virginia's kind of air raid offense where they're just putting a lot of points up. So I know the arm strength is an issue, but I think it's something he can overcome. I love his moxie. At the very least, he's a high-end backup in this league.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough. Yeah. Makes sense enough. I'm just wanted to know where where a lot of that comes from.
Yeah.
Especially because Daniel Jones, obviously, I mean, we didn't talk about Cutcliffe, his coach, who's a big Manning family patron, if you will. One of Peyton's favorite coaches to go to for the quick tune-up. No, but that's fair enough. So outside of quarterbacks, who are guys that you're keeping an eye out on in the later rounds, the middle rounds of this draft?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I mentioned there's always going to be some running backs, and I know I mentioned Miles Sanders. There are some others. I do. So, and by the way, I want to, before I just leave the quarterback conversation, Brad Mays of Lehigh is on teams' radars.
Yes, he is, baby.
Possibly undrafted free agent. Great arm, obviously has a lot to work on, but they don't discredit a Lehigh quarterback. Possibly somebody fell in love, possibly being drafted late. I think you could see something there. Just want to throw it out. I think it's worth me saying. That would be pretty cool, by the way. We've never had
pretty awesome
drafted, have we?
Not drafted. We do also have Dom Bragalone, who went to the combine, time to 4.48 40. He's up there. I don't know if he's going to get drafted. He might, depending on how running backs do. I think he'd probably be an undrafted free agent. Not the tallest of guys out there too. Only 5'11", 230. So if he really impresses guys, he could be a guy that turns out to be maybe a Danny Woodhead type. If he really squeezes his way out of there. But while we're on the subject of Lehigh guys, keep an eye out if you're a Lehigh alum like Matty D and I are.
A couple wide receivers I think to monitor. One is one of my favorite guys to watch in college, Hunter Renfrow. He's not highly ranked, but he's the guy that right away is going to be a slot receiver. He's made big catches in his life. He's a guy that somebody's going to take and be happy with. The other guy is JJ. This is a big time name. JJ Arcega-Whiteside. He's a Stanford wideout, 6'2", 225, jump ball guys. He's a mismatch player. I don't think he's Mike Evans, but I think he's a poor man's Mike Evans. This is a guy that somebody could kind of groom as a number 2, and could be drafted anywhere between, I've heard second, but he's going to be a 4th or 5th round guy. There's a guy to watch out for in a couple years from now as they kind of develop him into somewhat of a really, really good player. So there's a guy for me that I'm kind of keeping my eye on that I would love to see a team pick up that I like because I think he's got some talent there.
Awesome.
And by the way, Bryce Love as a running back, hurt, as a Heisman candidate. I don't know what he has left. I don't know if he's been used up, but just, there's another guy that teams are paying attention to, I think, still
Yeah.
at the running back position. So
he almost feels like a Toby Gerhart, who was that big name coming out of college and then kind of lost a lot of steam. He got a little banged up, also a Stanford guy. And then, did okay with the Vikings. Bryce Love, it's worth taking a shot at, obviously. I mean, he did incredibly well behind Christian McCaffrey, and then obviously the 2 seasons he put together after McCaffrey left. But we'll see there. I don't know. I don't know if it's the best running back class, but it certainly is going to be interesting to see where these guys go.
There's some intriguing players, though. That's the one thing I will say. I mean, there's some intriguing running backs. They're more of specialty running backs to an extent, like a Benny Snell out of Kentucky, who's more of a bruiser. Tavon Williams out of Texas A&M, who's a quick little scat guy. That's what you're seeing more of here. I think you'll find in this case a lot of guys along those lines for various reasons. So, I mean, it's going to be a fascinating draft, especially with the first round. These teams can just go in so many different directions. It's always hard to project late in drafts because teams find players that they simply fall in love with.
For sure.
And that's who they're going to take.
That's what's so funny about mock drafts is like the minute there's any sort of deviation off of what everybody thinks the draft is going to go. That's why I kept asking you, am I crazy to think somebody's going to trade up and pick Josh Jacobs or, Marquise Brown or somebody like that? Because this ends up happening every year. Somebody goes way earlier than we think they do. And then all of a sudden the middle of the first round becomes, we need wide receivers. This is what we need. Right. Somebody took him at 7. We need him at 12, 13, 14, 15, and it just goes completely haywire. 2 years ago was probably the best example of that because you saw quarterbacks even as well that just all of a sudden quarterbacks are flying off the board left and right when you thought it was going to be this typical we're rebuilding from within type of draft, and that's what this draft is starting to seem. And I don't know if there's that same level of talent that could send this completely off the reservation, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's the positive is almost every team and every fan somehow, some way comes out feeling absolutely great about the draft. It's a positive time for pretty much every franchise. So that I think is cool. That's a good thing. And there's just a lot of prospects this year. A lot of, like I said, the top of the draft loaded on defense. So we'll see what happens late because you're right, though. That I like your point. There may be a run in the middle of this. Somebody's going to go way out of lot. You'll be like, who the heck drafted that? That guy, and it's going to get – that's what's fun. That's what makes it fun. That's why I tune in. I can't look away.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm actually going to be at the Phillies game tomorrow night. It's Andrew McCutchen free T-shirt night. So I will be watching on my phone as I watch the Phillies take on the Miami Marlins. But, yeah, the NFL draft, I love that they moved to the Thursday to kick this thing off. I'd love to say I'd like to see them do 1 and 2 on one night, but after having been to round 1 2 years ago, it's understandable why it's just one round on Thursday night because it's so wild and so much stuff can happen. And then Friday night with the rounds 2 and 3, and then Saturday where they just get the whole thing done. It kind of it makes it an event. It's obviously it's a business weekend for 32 different franchises, but they really have upped the entertainment factor, which I think Nashville should do a really good job of it. And I feel like if the NFL were going to make it more this fan friendly style, I feel like they could find it. Speaking this partially biasedly of being a Philadelphian, but do the Ben Franklin Parkway and the Art Museum steps, do Broadway, have the Vegas Strip, do something in Hollywood, have some sort of rotation like you do with the natural Super Bowl destinations. Do the same thing with the draft, or these fun open locations. And I think Nashville probably is going to might set the standard over this weekend.
Oh, I think it might. And to your point there, It's fun to look back. So I also recommend before the draft, everybody take a look back, see what your team's drafted before. It's pretty fun. But secondly, it's really cool now because I was with you. I wanted the first and second on the same night, but now it creates the first pick in the second round is now a gold mine. The first 5 picks, teams get the opportunity to sit and reset themselves. Trades happen. I think for the NFL, it makes tons of sense. And quite frankly, it's fun to watch. So I'm 100% with you. I really like the first round, then the second and third, and then everything else that Saturday.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. It's going to be so much fun to watch. Yeah, the first round. Hopefully, there's a nice little run, something for me to check out on my subway ride home from the Phillies game, and then for me to pop on the TV when I get back. But Matt, any other thoughts? I have one last prospect I want to ask you about before we wrap things up on this. But any other thoughts that you have?
No, but look, we've covered a lot, and I won't bore anyone further.
No, so
in my draft talk,
I want to ask you about one last prospect that's probably a little close to your heart. Where do you think Delaware safety Nasir Adderley is going to go?
Oh, first of all, great pickup. This guy was kind of somewhat of a first-round pick there for a little bit. Some people thought he might go in the back half of the first round. He's kind of fallen out a little bit, so I definitely think he's somewhat of a lock for that second round or second day, I should say. In this case, so I think he's going to be a mid-second, maybe early third pick at worst. He's a good player. I mean, he can get after it. Don't know if I wouldn't necessarily consider him like an elite prospect. And some people have kind of dropped him down for a number of reasons. But I definitely think he's a second day. He's a little too undersized. He's to bulk up. Other than that, though, he can fly around the field. He can cover deep. He's definitely going to start his career as that free center field safety and go from there.
If the Eagles take him, will this heal your heart after the Mikal Bridges trade?
Well, we'll probably trade him right away, right?
Yeah. For those that don't know, both Nasir Adderley, Matthew DiStefano, and Mikal Bridges all went to the Great Valley High School. That's why I had to ask Matty D about him.
I would love to have him on the Eagles, but I would not know if I love the pick in our first round. I hate to say it. I think we can do a little better there. But that's all. I'll leave it at that.
Like I said, if they don't get an offensive lineman, trade back. And get Nasir Adderley.
Yes, correct.
Be the ultimate.
That's a great idea.
Ultimate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Matt, let's call Howie right now. Let's jump off.
We'll get on the phone with him. Yeah. And you guys all tune in tomorrow to see how this first round shakes out. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. And let's wrap this thing up because we actually have a second pod to record tonight, which will drop Friday morning. A bullpen card podcast coming at you. But so that you don't miss it, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. Search The Bullpen Cart. That's the name of our feed on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podcoin, wherever you get your podcasts. Find us on Twitter, ThunderBLG. Matt DiStefano21 for Matty D's feed. Jordo9 for my feed. I think that's the same as our Instagrams as well. Thunderbuck Sports on Instagram for us. Matty D, thank you. You were the driving force behind this podcast. I did not even think about doing a NFL draft pod coming into the week. So thank you as always.
All good. All
right. So that's going to wrap things up here. For my man, Matty D, I am the G-Man. Have a great weekend, everybody. And let's go, Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly, baby. All right, cool. So I'm not going to stop the broadcast. This is just going to be like our little break. If we want to get up, go take a piss, get another beer, all that good stuff. And then we'll just come back and do baseball in want to do 5 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes. I'll see you at 55.
All right, cool. 55. Sounds good.
Cool. See ya.
All right. Did you say something?
I did not, Jordy. You're good.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I saw your thing moving. How bad?
Hello? Hey, you all right? Okay, cool. Me and Jordy are just about to start our second podcast, so. Yes. No, we're doing it over the internet. Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to do a draft one, so that's what I really like. So we did that, and then we're gonna do the baseball one. Okay. Okay. See you then. Okay, babes. Drive safe. Okay. Bye.
Yo, I'm back whenever you are.
G, you back?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good, man. I literally just sat down.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm
a word up, yo.
Good when you are.
All right, cool. We're gonna load up a couple pages so that we have something. We have a springboard. Go to Major League Baseball. We'll start with standings. All right, cool. We'll get this thing started. Hold on, I have a burp. It's a much larger burp. Excuse me there. Than I thought it was going to be. All right. Ready to rock?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do this thing. All right. In 3, 2, 1. And we are live. Welcome to this week's episode of the Bullpen Cart Podcast, presented by ThunderblogSports.com, the namesake of the Bullpen Cart Podcast feed. I, of course, am the G-Man, Jordy Cannell. Joining me as always, or for the second time this season, rather, is my man, Matty D. What's up, buddy?
Oh, baseball's in full swing. I mean, I'm into it, man. We've got highlights everywhere. We've got expected stars, breakout stars. I'm just really ready for, and I'm struggle with this with the super heat, but man, I can't wait to go to a game, shorts and a t-shirt, sit there, roast away. Baseball is meant to be played in the heat. I hate to say it because I'm not great in the heat, but man, ready for the weather to turn, in particular up in the Northeast where we are. Everybody down. It's always nice in LA, but I'm ready for it, man. I'm ready. But it's been great. It's been a great start to the season too. So
yeah, absolutely. We talked about it a lot last week of the great start and a lot of the great storylines that are there. On your note, though, we're recording this Wednesday night. We're actually dropping it Thursday night into Friday morning. So you're probably listening to this Friday. But so going to the game Thursday night. And right now, the projected weather for 24 hours from now is about mid-60s. Cloudy, but mid-60s. We're finally getting there, Matt. I finally can feel comfortable wearing shorts and a t-shirt to a game. The clouds don't help, and there's potential. Hopefully, the rain holds off. It's supposed to hit closer to midnight, but who knows? Who knows with Pennsylvania weather? But Matt, it's been an awesome. We're about to wrap up the first month of the season, and like you mentioned, it's been an awesome month. We've had some great stories. We talked about it a little bit last week, but what's been your favorite story coming out of the first month of the season?
Well, I think my favorite story is that $60 million is leading a division with two teams that are over $200 million at least in payroll. That's the Tampa Bay Rays doing Tampa Bay Ray things.
Yes,
and being up so much. I think it's incredible for baseball. I think it's incredible for. I think it's incredible for sports in general. By the way. But it's really cool to see the Rays have success even, and without their best pitcher. Was on the DL. So they're 16-9. They're one game in the loss column up on the Yankees, many games up on the Red Sox. Great story for them. And the metrics prove they're plus 40 in run differential, which is the best in baseball. So it's not a fluke necessarily in terms of a start. I'm not saying they're going to be able to hold out against the Yankees and maybe eventually the Red Sox, but it's not necessarily a fluke, and that's an impressive statistic for them, especially thinking they weren't going to be this elite team coming into the year.
Oh, yeah. And just to correct you, Blake Snell, he came back today.
He did. Okay.
He first start. Yeah, he missed one start because of the whole bathtub moving incident. But he did not do so well today. He only made it into the fourth inning, let up a few runs here and there, whip over two. So, but he's back and he had been so dominant right before then. You're absolutely right. being one of a few teams now as we're getting into the mid-20 mark of in terms of total games played. They've obviously completed 25, and they still are at single-digit losses, and you can't really be upset with them with that. And probably the best is that they've formed themselves into one of the best road teams in baseball, which
Yes, they have.
you can't really. It's not the greatest stat in the world of home and away, or specifically away, but being that good away, they're 7-2 to start the year, is astounding. Like you mentioned, the plus 40 run differential. I mean, it's awesome to see this team continue what looked like could be this incredible run last September where they almost made the playoffs. And this year, they're 2 games up on the Yankees, who I have a feeling we might talk about in a few minutes. But they're doing Moneyball. I mean, their pitching's been outstanding and all the different strategies that they've incorporated. Their batting's been pretty good. They're top 10 in terms of getting on base. They're 11th in runs overall, and then pitching, they're first in nearly every category except for home runs allowed, which they're 4th. They've let up the 4th least amount of home runs in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
So they're keeping the ball low. They're putting it in play, and that's really, as the Kansas City Royals proved 4 years ago now. Holy shit! That's all you need to do to win the World Series.
That's true. Yeah, I'm with you. By the way, and I'll quick update you. Middle of the 8th inning, Phillies up 4-0.
Oh,
They
yeah.
just had Harper topped it off with a double to score Realmuto. Franco has an RBI, and Gosselin is filling in for the injured Gene Segura, and
Scott
Kingery has a RBI as well. So good pitching tonight from Velasquez as well. He went 5. No earned runs.
Sub-2. I feel like we're going to talk about him. ERA sub-2. I feel like we're going to talk about him a little more just a little bit when we get to Phillies talk.
You'd really like these guys to go 6-7. It's okay. I'll take. I would look if you told me I started a good 5 innings without giving up a run. I would take it every time.
Oh yeah,
I can live with that. But long-term bullpen health, you want a guy doing it. But we'll take it.
Yeah.
And Adam Morgan is in the bottom of the 8th to try to get the hold. And go from there.
Hand it off. Yep. We'll talk a little bit more about the Phillies in a bit.
I tried to jump the gun. I just had to bring it up.
No. It's good to bring up because it was literally as we started to hit record, it was 1-0 and the Phillies scored 3 runs. At first, it looked like Harper's double in the first inning was going to be the only action we'd see all night. But Matt, let's jump right into it. Hot and cold teams. Do you want to start in the NL or the AL?
Let's start in the. What did we do last? Wait. Let's start in the AL. It comes up first on my list, so we will start in the AL.
Awesome. Do you got a team, or do you want me to give you mine?
I have a team, but I'll leave it up to you.
All right. I am going to go with probably the obvious pick. I'm going to go with the New York Yankees, winners of 5 straight. This team that's probably been. We're just talking about banged up. The Phillies being banged up of having the backup of a backup. The Yankees, that's been their MO throughout 2019. We talked about this last week, and it's only gotten worse. Aaron Judge went on the DL, or the IL, excuse me. And I mean, these guys are just putting, literally just piecing together their lineup day in, day out. And what's been great for them are these players who, people counted out a little bit, have been awesome for them to pick up the pieces, like a Luke Voit. Gary Sanchez, who had a lot to prove coming into this year, has been absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. Brett Gardner's looked pretty good. DJ LeMahieu has looked pretty solid, batting .272. But their pitching, Matt, has probably been their best bet. And, you can't be too upset with them and where they're going. Because even guys like James Paxton, who you wondered, what was this addition going to do? He's a 3.1 ERA in 29 innings pitched. He's just behind Tanaka in terms of leading the team in total innings eaten up. And that, like you just mentioned with the Phillies, that's probably in today's baseball, the amount of innings that starters can, and I'm going to use this term again, that they can eat up becomes so much more important. And sure, having those specialists to pitch the 7th, 8th, and obviously the 9th inning are great and everything. But having a guy that can go into the 7th, into the 8th, especially during the long season that is the Major League Baseball season, does so well for you. I mean, the playoffs you can really get the specialists in there, but the regular season bullpen health is vital to a team.
Yeah, and I get that point 100%. That's what I was mentioning with Velasquez. I mean, they need to go deep, and that's something that, although, I mean, then there's the whole Rays scenario with pitching. So it does go both ways. But I'm more of a let my starter go 7, 8, 9 innings, and let's leave those bullpen guys till the end of the year. And we really need to be juiced up and ready to get out there and fire.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, gotta love it. Gotta love to see. We talked about it last week too. That the Yankees and the Red Sox weren't going to be down for long. The Red Sox obviously still straightening things out. We'll say that. We'll put it that way. But slowly but surely, getting clawing their way back up.
Yeah.
Matt, what about you? What is your hot team for the American
League? I'm going to go with another same division actually, and I'm going to go with the Toronto Blue Jays. Ooh. They did lose 2 in a row, but before that they won 4 in a row. They're 6-4 in their last 10, and I'm bringing them up for 2 reasons. One, they've just jumped over their positive +2 now run differential. They're third of the division. I'm not saying they have the talent necessarily to make a run, but a couple interesting things that are happening for them. One, Freddie Galvis is leading the team with a .311 batting average and 5 home runs.
His catch?
I did, dude. I mean, the one thing we always knew about Freddie, was that his defense was as good as it got. I mean, that's the one thing I think you can say we knew. It was. He can.
If you haven't seen this, Galvis goes out and bare hands a pop fly in the outfield on the run. It's incredible.
You also have Justin Smoke out there, a former very highly touted prospect, playing first for them. He's batting .284, leads the team in RBIs. But the other reason I bring them up, we obviously like the hitting there. They're 6-4, like I said, is that you also have to think they're going to be one of the hottest teams because they're going to have the hottest prospect in baseball making his debut on Friday.
Yes.
And that is Vlad Guerrero Jr. Will be making his case. He's joining Friday, number 2 overall prospect by Keith Law of ESPN. This guy, just like his father, can absolutely hammer the baseball. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of success he has. But let me tell you, I mean, he can flat out play. His dad, by the way, first 8 seasons of his 16-year career with the Montreal Expos. So pretty cool for them. And I'm hoping he smacks one early. Mm-hmm. So
did you see the picture his dad put up on Instagram?
Posted. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
man.
It was pretty cool. It's a picture of young Vlad who he looks exactly the same in that picture. I had the pleasure of hanging out with some chums from up from the Great White North who were talking about how they're hoping he sheds a few pounds because otherwise he might quickly become the Blue Jays DH. But he's a big boy who shows it when he swings at the baseball. He can absolutely kill that thing.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be impressive. He's been batting .367, 3 home runs, 8 RBIs in 8 games in AAA Buffalo. Last year he batted .381s with 20 homers and 78 RBIs in just 95 games as he went through all 4 levels of minor league baseball. Mm-hmm. He can absolutely play, even if he isn't DH to start. He can just get there.
What's your take on service time harvesting like they're doing with Guerrero Jr.?
I don't blame the Blue Jays, by the way.
You don't play? Yeah, I mean it's they're taking advantage of a rule that's in place. It's a good business decision. I mean, obviously Guerrero can make a case like Chris Bryant did.
Yeah. I think first and foremost, I get why those are in place. That's the first thing I want to say. I understand they want to try to keep talent. I get all that, but it hurts the game. Your young stars don't come up as quick because you want to keep them and groom them, and then you don't want to have to pay them. We obviously see a little bit of a change with that with the Acuna Jr.'s $100 million extension. So that's a good step, but I think they need to figure out if they can change that at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of new rules that are flying about and all over the place. I wanted to ask you quick while we were on the subject of Guerrero Jr., but back in the Blue Jays, the one thing we didn't talk about was their pitching because their starters, Matt, have been absolutely lights out.
Yeah,
Aaron
I was gonna
Sanchez
come
has been
next.
great, a good return to form for him, but it's been Marcus Stroman who is somehow 1-3 in
I
5
know.
starts with an ERA of 1.76.
Yep.
Absolutely insane versus Matt Schumacher, who is 3-0 in 5 starts with an even better 1.75 ERA. But
Right.
Stroman's pitched 30 innings for these guys. Has 3 losses in 5
Mm-hmm.
starts. It's
I know.
insane.
I mean, the thing, depending on what they want to do, they either have great trade pieces here,
Mm-hmm.
or they have a really good pitching staff for the next couple of years, depending on which direction they want to go. Because Marcus Stroman, I talked about him. I think it was last week, week before. He's an ace. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
how talented he is. So we'll see if he can keep it up.
Yeah. It would be really nice to see it because, I mean, who knows where Toronto's going to go as the season goes on. Obviously, you don't think that the Red Sox are going to hang on to where they are. And Baltimore actually just won. So the Red Sox have now moved back into last place in the American League East. But you don't think the Red Sox are going to sit there. Obviously, the Yankees didn't since the last time you and I sat down a week ago. So, where Toronto ends up, it's probably going to be ahead of Baltimore, who's now a sixth of their way to their Vegas over under, Matt. Which, if you'd bet the over, you actually would have made some nice money.
All right.
but anyway, I mean, if Toronto 3 games sub 500 right now, if they're going to sit in third place in the division, probably fourth place when Boston figures it out, who knows what they do come trade deadline time if they decide to deal a guy like Stroman, if they decide to hold on to him and see what Vlad Guerrero does. Who knows? Vlad Guerrero could turn these guys on. I mean, Greg likes to talk about when he comes on about how the Yankees and Red Sox never play well in Toronto, and the Blue Jays are right now 4-8 at home. They're above 500 away. We were kind of discounting the away records, but home records really are a really good indication of how well a team is playing, especially early on in the season. So, I mean, if Toronto figures that out, I mean, think about it this way: if they were 6-6 instead of 4-8, they're at 500. They're 13-12, and they've only played 2 more games than the Yankees. They would be 3 games though behind Tampa Bay. So
Right.
who knows? Who knows what this team could do? And if Guerrero gives them a spark, I mean, I was about to say like the Nationals, but Soto didn't give the Nationals the spark they needed to overcome both the Phillies and Atlanta, at least for the most of the season. We don't need to talk about the Phillies end of the season, but the Nationals still didn't overcome Atlanta last year.
Right.
But it could make a huge difference of what this guy could do for their lineup.
No, I agree.
Yep. Let's go to the National League.
Mm-hmm. I can take the first one here if you want.
Yeah, I'll let you start because I started the American League.
Yeah. Here come the Cubbies.
Oh yeah,
8-2 in
their last. Baby. Let's go, baby! My pick for the division winners.
Yeah,
I'm so
they
excited.
are one game. They're one game out of the loss column in first in a very good division, by the way. Very good division. Finally figuring it out. I know that you're excited about that. We know the talent is there. Javier Baez, by the way, jukes out a defender basically to get to first, which is a wild highlight. Jason Hayward.
Are you okay with that not being? Are you okay with that not being called an out of the baseline?
I would have called him out of the baseline.
Yeah, I would have too, but I think it's better for baseball to let that slide because otherwise you're going to get you want to attract that kind of stuff to little kids.
Right. Their lineup is batting better. Jason Hayward finally looking like the number 1 overall prospect, batting .339 early this year. So that's a good start. Javier Baez,
homers, 11 ribbies,
is an all-star MVP candidate. He's batting .315. I'd like his on base to be a little bit higher, but he can still just flat out play. And I mean, if guys like Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo and Kyle Schwarber, Ben Zobrist, if 2 of those 4 that I just named can figure it out, this lineup will become incredibly dangerous.
The fact that Ben Zobrist is only batting .250 right now, among the other guys, but Ben Zobrist, a guy who normally bats like .320.
Yeah,
if he figures it out, they're plus 22 in run differential, 117 runs scored, which is as good as the Phillies, a team that you and I and me and every other week with Greg have been like, oh, they score all those many runs a game. The Cubs are right there, and their pitching's better. I mean,
Right.
if they figure that out, they could catch the likes of LA. They could catch the likes of St. Louis. They could catch the likes of Arizona, whose offense is still right there. I mean, the Cubs are, a lot of people, they forgot about the Cubs. They forgot about Dre.
Right. Right.
They're right there.
I think one of the concerns of the Cubs is the pitching. Yu Darvish, 5.96 ERA. He needs to figure it out. Cole Hamels pretty good. 2.77 ERA. Jose Quintana's been all right. 3.
Yeah, a lot of them started off really bad and are kind of digging themselves out of there. Aside from Cole Hamels, Quintana had a really bad first start. He came out of the bullpen in one of them as well. Same with Kyle Hendricks. Kyle Hendricks has had a couple really rough starts, so they're trying to really dig themselves out. This fielding for the Cubs was really bad to start the season. So I think that's a lot of it too. If you look at the difference between earned runs and unearned runs on a lot of their pitching, there's a great difference. Kyle Hendricks is 1, even though his ERA is 3.5.
Right.
It could be so much higher if the fielding, if ERA wasn't a stat and it was just run average. But yeah, I mean, I think that the direction that they're going is a good place to be in if you are a Cubs fan. And John Lester's figuring it out.
Yeah, he's been better. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, 2.57, right? Right. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. Yep. So I mean, it's a nice spot to be in if you're a Cubs fan. I think if you're wondering how they're going to fare, because my hot team is the Cardinals, I think this is something that you just got to hold on. This is going to be a war of a division, like it was the first time the Cubs made the playoffs in however many years it was. 4 years ago in 2015, the Cardinals are right back there. The Brewers, we might be talking about them in a few minutes, but they're going to obviously figure it out. I think with where their offense is, maybe not. We might have a difference of opinion there, but the Pirates, I don't know if they're going to hold on. The Reds have been better than I would have thought they would have been. That's strange to say at 9-14. But I feel like the Reds shouldn't be this good, and the computers were giving the Reds a lot of credit for the on paper acquisitions.
Yeah,
but that's a really good pick of the Cubs. Like I said, my pick for hot team was the St. Louis Cardinals.
Makes sense.
Winners of 5 in a row, 7 of their last 10. They've scored a ton of runs. They are not number 1 in the National League. They're just behind the Dodgers, but they've played one less game. So, runs per game. But the Cards, their pitching's been pretty solid to start the year. But really, I mean, what they've been able to do is they get on base. They hit the ball well. They see the ball well in terms of walks. Their pitching's right in the middle of the road. Quite literally, their earned run average is 14th in the league. WHIP is 15th. They let up a lot of home runs, which I think is probably something that needs to be discussed a little more, because if the Dodgers, I know they'll only play the Dodgers twice, in 2 different series, same with the Phillies, the Mets, who have been pretty good to start the year, the Nationals, the Braves. But I mean, if the Cubs, especially the Brewers, if they figure this out on the Cubs or the Cardinals, excuse me, that's going to be something to really be concerned about, because their starters do let up a lot of home runs.
True.
Aside from Adam Wainwright, every Cardinal starter, it lets up at least 1 home run a start on average. In the case of Dakota Hudson, it's 2 home runs a start, and he has an ERA that's close to 6. So they've really done a good job of their bullpen being a lot of the strong suit for them.
Right.
Obviously their hitting has been outstanding. They have guys who are batting out of this world. Jose Martinez has a batting average of 368 in 23 games. And Paul DeJong's been great. Dexter Fowler's been good. And you just run down the list. And Paul Goldschmidt, you want to say it is middle of the road for him because he bats 269, but he has 9 homers and 19 RBIs. And then Marcelo Zuna, who's even further down on the batting average list for starters, he's second to last, to make a matter of fact. That's 8 homers and 18 RBIs, and he's batting 256. That's not terrible at all. These guys have video game-like numbers. Their offense is great. If we're going to keep it in the video game territory, they might have the pitching difficulty a little too high, but right now it's working for them. And I'd like to see the pitching stabilize a little more. And if that's a sacrifice of offense, so be it, even though that's not how baseball works. It's not like basketball where defense and offense can go hand in hand.
Right.
Which is one of the nice things about baseball. But I mean, you can't really knock the Cardinals for anything that they're doing right now.
No, this might be the best division in baseball.
I would say so. Yeah.
I mean, the Reds are at least exciting again. The Brewers got off to a hot start. They've really faded. Well, maybe somebody will get to that, but I mean, top to bottom, this division's good. You're right. It was been a war in the past too. I mean, you got really good baseball teams in the Central. Really good baseball teams.
So let's quickly go into cold teams, and it sounds like we're both consensus to the Brewers for cold team of the week. The other
you can take them if you want. If you want, take them.
I'm going to take the Brewers. I'm going to take the Brewers as my pick because one of the other options we're going to talk about in the Phillies. But the Brewers, I mean, they've lost 4 in a row. They're not a good away team, which is something that as much as it doesn't matter as great as home team. We're doing a lot of away home analysis today, but so be it. They're just a team that likes to they really like to play in Milwaukee and away from home. It's been a little tougher for him. Christian Yelich, most of his home runs have come in Milwaukee. And they just got swept by the Cardinals coming through tonight. But we'll see how it goes this weekend. They come to New York, and the Mets are coming off of looks like they're about to take 2 or 3 from the Phillies, unless the Phillies decide to blow this. I don't know. I mean, they're hitting the ball well. There isn't really a ton to say about them, but a bad week for this team that should be better than letting up 13 home runs to St. Louis and then losing a couple close ones. There's something, at least it's worth mentioning, because this team, it just seems like a bad pitching week from them more than anything than a bad hitting week. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does make sense. And that's one of the concerns with them. I mean, they need to be in this, like you mentioned, in this division with the kind of offensive power, in particular with the Cardinals and the Cubs. You can't afford to not have guys that can at least assist pitching wise. I mean, they just added Gio Gonzalez. They're fading in the pitching category, and they certainly need to kind of fix that if this team wants to compete, because don't waste Christian Yelich's MVP season potential. Another don't. I mean, you got to help them out. So get guys in there that can do it.
No, that's
the offense is great, the pitching staff, and we brought this up when we talked about. I mean, I don't know. Oh no, maybe we didn't talk about these, but anyway, something that I was concerned with is who are their pitchers. Who are the guys that are going to really lock and load? And I mean, Davies. They're
the Colorado Rockies argument, and we've seen what Colorado's been doing right now, which that could have been a good hot team as well. I probably should have, considering that they were my other team that I picked to win a division that started off really shitty, but I digress. No, you hit the nail on the head though. They're pitching. This is what we thought last year, and why we thought the Cubs were just. It was a guarantee that the Cubs weren't going to blow that division. And then they blew the division because the Milwaukee offense was just so good and the pitching came together at the right time. We're seeing the effect of it right now. So that's a really good point. I mean, their run differential has just been real. It's really going to shit right now, because you're letting up more than 20 runs worse, or 3 worse than three worse than the second worst in the National League. But it's close to 20 than the rest of the pack. The Mets pitching has been terrible as well, but at least their offense has also picked it up like Milwaukee's has. I mean, both teams have 13 wins, but is it sustainable? I don't know. We'll see as the ship gets righted. I mean, these two, it works out perfectly, Matt. I guess that Milwaukee goes to New York to face the Mets this week, and we'll see. We'll see people that like to bet the over probably make a lot of money. It's probably my off the cuff analysis.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Who's your cold team though?
Well, let's roll right into it. My cold team is going to be our Philadelphia Phillies.
Cool. Cool. You want to do Phillies talk now, or do you want to save it for a little bit?
Well, I thought we'll roll right into it now.
All right, let's do
it. We knew this team was going to have a couple warts. They didn't really show themselves necessarily early. Then we see them go on the road to the Rockies. They drop 3 of 4. Okay.
Yep.
And then they go up to the Mets. Now they're going to. It would appear like they are going to win tonight.
They're now up 6-0. Yeah.
Rhys Hoskins hit
another homer
off the guy that threw the pitch over his head last night. 34 seconds to get around the bases, by the way. That's David Ortiz level slow. And then they go up to the Mets, though. It's a very important series. They're not getting DeGrom or Thor. They lose 5-1, 9-0. They do bounce back tonight, and that's important. But I got to tell you, this is
the
not
offense of the Sixers.
Right. That was a great post by you there, by the way. I appreciate that. But this is not the start. That this is not the run. This team's got to be careful with things like this. Some of it's got to fall on the pitching staff. I love this team, but their pitching staff needs to be better. They need to go deeper into games. You know, when you take a look at this team, Jake Arrieta's 2.65 ERA. He's probably their quote unquote. See, their number one, right? I mean,
it should be Nola, but Nola's has had a really tough start to the year.
Right, that's what I mean. So to me, like, it's the number one. I mean, he's their number one guy right now. I mean, that's a huge concern, though. They desperately need to repair that pitching staff. Nola needs to improve. You know, Eflin started hot. Now he's struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
Velasquez is a good outing. Pavetta's not even here anymore. Eichhoff, what do we have there?
Okay in that start against the Rockies. I mean, it was kind of a weird day. They had the delay on. This was Sunday afternoon on Easter against the Rockies. I mean, he also missed all of last year. So I mean, depending on what Pavetta does, and I think he was starting with the Iron Pigs tonight on Wednesday night when we're recording. Depending on how he does tonight, and if they decide if the Hector Neris theory works, which for those unfamiliar, Hector Neris, former Phillies closer and still somewhat of a closer for them, really sucked at the beginning of last year. Around July, they sent him down to the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs for about a month, came back in August and was lights out and has been pretty solid to start the year. Has 3 saves, leads the team in that category, a whip of .62 and 9 innings, an ERA of 1.86. Like I mentioned, a team leading 3 saves. So if that theory works for Pavetta, great, and he can finally get back on track of this projected awesome fantasy year he was supposed to have. My point on this is that Eichhoff, if he gets it going a little bit, and this sounds crazy because Vince Velasquez has been probably one of the better starters the Phillies has had, despite the fact that he's only had 3 starts comparatively to Arrieta's 5, Nola's 5, Eflin's 5, and Nola's starting tomorrow night. In other words, they try to avoid Velasquez when they can. You know, if they can move him to the bullpen and use him like they did during that first go round, I'm not completely opposed to that, because that, you know, the way that he throws Velasquez with the speed, a little bit of the movement that he has, but mainly the speed. He's a good 7th inning guy that can add just another wrinkle to it. I think with Robertson on the DL, it hasn't been I'm not even saying anywhere close to been a complete bust, because he's admitted it's been shitty. He's been hurt. There was some sort of banged up that he might have been pitching on. Who knows? Hopefully when he comes back, he's okay. I think Sir Anthony's probably going to figure it out. I mean, I've been saying this since the middle of last year when he started to get a little bit shaky, but we'll see what happens with him. The fireballer, 9 games played, 7 innings pitched, not the greatest ERA. But that middle of the bullpen, though, Matt, I think it's been outstanding recently, and that's tough to say considering since you and I last sat down to podcast, The Phillies are now about to win their third game since then. They won last Wednesday against the Mets, lost 3 of 4, and they're going to lose 2 to the Rockies, and they're about to lose 2 or 3 to the Mets. A crucial 4-game series against the Marlins where you hope they get it back on track. But this is a team that I think if they play well at home and just do decently all right on the road. I mean, right now they're 4-7. If they're closer to 500, I'll take it. And they're this solid home team, because I think that's something that really, outside of Atlanta, no other team in the National League East can really hold a candle to, is the atmosphere that Citizens Bank Park, when the Phillies are good, brings. I know that's not necessarily the best quantitative analysis, but qualitative, I think it really makes some sort of an impact. I know Mets fans are incredibly passionate of their team, and they've played so few home games. This is their 8th of their 24 games. A third of their games have been on the road. But I really think that's something the Phillies can hold an advantage to. And if they can start playing some better away ball, and obviously it starts with starting pitching, because the offense is going to have its off nights, but it's also going to have these nights where they are on, and it just went final 6-0 is your final score as the Phillies win to move into a tie for first place. But, I mean, if they're scoring 5 runs a night, the pitching's got to be at least good to pick up the 5 runs your offense is spotting them. You can't have, I forget what year of the Atlanta Braves, 10 straight years it was of winning the division, where their middle relievers had so many blown saves that it was up to the offense to pick it up in the late innings, and it worked out. Atlanta still won the division, but I don't want the Phillies to fall into that kind of territory.
Right. No, I agree. Which is why, look, it's a long season. You're going to go into slumps here or there. That's okay. This is a good bounce back win tonight, and they just need to kind of continue that, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Keep grinding. Good.
Oh no, I was going to say we didn't even touch upon the fact of how banged up the team has been.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you lose both. You lose 2. Kingery and Segura go at the same time. That really hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Defensively, it hurts offensively. No, I certainly agree with that as well.
Yeah.
And by the way, the Mets are a good team.
They are a good team.
Don't sleep on this team. I know we won, but this Mets team can play. They've got a great pitching staff. They really do. I mean, you saw Zach Wheeler, Matt's big bounce back game. I mean, this team can play. So just pay attention to this team as well. They're certainly we're going to be a contender all season with the Phils.
Yeah, they're a similar team to the Phillies, or not to the Phillies, but they're similar to. It's kind of the reverse. If they are healthy with their pitching staff, because that's been their problem the last couple of years since they made the World Series, is they couldn't stay healthy. I mean, there's no reason for them not to be right in that conversation that we're going to be having in 3 months when September, or 4 months when September 1st rolls around.
Yeah,
there's
now I'm not
no
saying,
reason to if they stay healthy.
Right. I'm not saying we're going to roll the table here, but we now get a little bit of an easier stretch after we played a lot of good teams. We played the Marlins, got a 4-game set at home, 2 games Detroit. Then big series. You got Washington coming to town. As of right now, we're actually going to miss their best pitchers, Strasburg and Scherzer, but that's a big series. And then you go out the road to St. Louis. So in the next, and you'll hear from us next week, or hopefully hear from us next week about this, but we could be seeing a quick resurgence here until we get that Washington group.
The rare 2 days off in 1 week, which is needed because the Phillies will have had 17 straight days of baseball, of which they've played, right now sub 500 ball. It's something where really this weekend series with Miami is going to make all the difference. But it's going to be really interesting to see how this weekend goes, because you got Nola, the Eichhoff spot on Friday, his first home start in nearly 2 years, and then try to close out the rest of the weekend. Then you get Detroit, like you mentioned. And the only reason why I wanted to bring that up, I'm going to try to go to one of those games because I think Detroit's one of few baseball teams I haven't seen, Matt.
There you go. That'd be fun. Oh, I didn't know that. Very cool.
Yeah. I know no one else cares, but it's personal bucket list of mine. Try to see every baseball team. I wish there was some sort of Schneck book ad we could read about seeing every baseball team, but we'll get the Schneck book in a little bit. Our good friends. We forgot to mention them on the football pod we did because I feel like Logan would have given us some good odds on the number one pick. But yeah, I mean, I think some other positives or signs of things to come. The fact that between Kutch, Harper, and Hoskins, each one of them is batting around 260. Kutch is batting around 250. I think those averages can go up, especially Hoskins and McCutcheon. Harper batted 270 last year, so we don't know where. Or no, he batted way worse than that, way worse than 270. But we can see those averages go up. And I mean, I've said this before, and I'll continue to say this: if Bryce Harper continues to get walked for Rhys Hoskins to just drive him in, I'm all for that.
I'll take that as well, right? You get runs wherever you can get them. Doesn't matter how you get them. Just get them.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, I've been a big fan of, we mentioned Phil Gosselin, another Malvern guy, Matt, but Malvern prep grad, not a Great Valley grad.
Not a Great Valley. That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, but Malvern nonetheless. I mean, he had the big hit on Saturday against the Rockies, the 3-run double that really helped out there. Nick Williams, I'd like to see more of him, but he's batting 150 right now. I don't know if that's just he isn't getting a consistent shot. I don't know what the deal is there. I'm happy to see Roman Quinn in the lineup, but I'd like to see him a little more production there.
Yeah, I agree. Once again though, guys are going to get hot and cold, so let's. I really hope Quinn can stick on this roster.
I hope so too. There's a lot of outfield glut on the team, and as much as I loved Aaron Altair, I hate to say it, but I think you almost have to.
It might
DFA him.
Yeah. Yep. He hasn't figured out after that on and out. Yeah. Maybe time for him. Yep. And I'd like to see. I mean, Nick Williams is a guy who still think has potential. So without
he's so good against right-handers.
I know, but you got to be good against both sides, or else it's going to be you're never going to get the chance to play. I mean, that's the hard fact, hard truth on it. And it stinks to say. So we'd like Carrera back, even though he's a little wild. We'll get him back eventually, but
I mean, I think he's safe when he comes back.
Right.
We didn't do American League cold teams. Let's quickly pick ours. Mine's going to be Seattle. Pretty safe to say. I mean, they started off so hot, but 3-7 in the last 10. I think it's a temporary setback. I think they're a legitimate wild card contender. They could even threaten to host a wild card game. I think they're actually tied for the American League West right now, but I think Houston's going to continue to figure that out.
Yeah.
Do you have an American League cold?
Yeah, I'll go with the Angels. God, 9-15, last in the West. Honestly, I said this. I said this last week. I understand Trout's loyalty, but the fact that he said I like where this team is going, I don't see it.
It's tough. It's tough there.
They lost 7 in a row. They've only had 1 win recently. They're getting they're losing. I mean. I'm trying to come up with like a what they've got thing here. I mean, they've got an old Jonathan Lucroy, a struggling Justin Bohr, Zach Cozart never really figured it out. I mean, Albert Pujols is old. I mean,
we thought Zach Cozart was the next great player. Like,
and I'm not. I mean, Trout's like the only guy. I know. Good for Albert that he's getting some records now. Finally. Simmons is struggling, like you just look across the board, and I mean,
Simmons, same thing. He was supposed to be the next great shortstop,
right? Look, he's okay. I don't think he's necessarily. He's a piece. He's fine. Great defensively, but Trout's the only one. I mean, on this roster that to me even scares you at all. He's the only one with a WAR over 1, 2.1 so far this year, and his numbers are fantastic as expected.
Yeah.
Nobody else. They've got to figure it out. And I know they might be getting Ohtani back here, and I hope he's good. I hope for Trout's sake this team rebuilds and figures it out. They've got plenty of time since he opted up, but it's a struggle for them, man. It's a real struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move over to top players of the week. We'll do this quick. We'll start with the Roy Hobbs MVP of the week. Matt, do you want to start NL or AL?
Well, we'll flip it. We'll start in the National League.
Cool. Yeah. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
All right, I'm going to go with Charlie Blackmon. Not to keep it on the Phillies, but we saw a lot of this guy over the weekend. Nearly hit for the cycle. Probably should have. They gave an error to Andrew McCutcheon on a single that turned into Blackmon ending up on second base. even John Kruk made the comment of, I think the scorer might want to rethink that error on Kutch because he ended up having a triple double and home run in that game, but absolutely tearing the cover off the ball in the last 7 days. A 444 batting average, 2 homers, 2 triples, so he had an extra one on to boot there and a double as well.
Yep.
I mean, not this is a guy that we thought was going to heat up well. Like we mentioned, the Rockies winners of their 8 of their last 10 games. So really a team that we could have picked there, but really, you're really doing well there. What say you, Matt? What do you got for your hot player of the week?
I'm going to go with a guy who, to me, is having a huge bounce back year. That's Cody Bellinger of the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah. Great pick.
First of all, he's actually just for the season I believe he's batting over 400.
He is.
But last indeed. 7 days, 364, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, had some great fielding moments. This kid's putting it all together right now, and he's scary. That team is scary. He's scary. Mm-hmm. This year, like I said, 416. He's been hot. He's now right behind Yelich in the home run count, right behind him in the RBI count. He came to play.
Oh, yeah. That's a great pick. Do you want to start AL?
Yeah, I can lead it off. In the American League, a lot of guys that you'd expect to be, by the way, up at the top of this list that just simply aren't, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call all the injuries, in particular, over on the the big guys. I'm going to go with a guy who I actually really loved for a long time. He's playing on one of the best teams in baseball, but that's Josh Reddick, batting 500 over the last 7 days.
Yeah,
only 1 home run, 2 RBIs, but this is a guy who I would love to see figure it out. Came on the Red Sox, I believe, but he's batting 386. Now, he doesn't necessarily have the power yet, only 3 home runs, but 386 on base percentage over 400. He's protected in that lineup. Good for Josh. I mean, he's a guy I hope can figure it out all year.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Jonathan Schoop. We did not really talk about we didn't really talk about the rest of the American League because we stayed in the AL East for a lot of our picks, but the Minnesota Twins are doing very well. I know they've lost their last 2 games, but they're right ahead of Cleveland. Their offense is doing really well. Pitching's been okay, but Schoop has been pretty awesome in the last 10 days, batting 357, couple homers, 5 ribbies. Only struck out 4 times, which is, great to see. Second baseman, obviously, they got him from Baltimore at the trade deadline last year. And, he's really just been Mr. Consistent for him. And to see him to, perform at this level, the 5th best in terms of hits gathered and to really knock the cover off the ball, 5 doubles as well. Just an awesome week for him.
Yeah, no, great choice there. Great. And you're right. Good point. We didn't really bring them up. Twins, though, surging right now.
Yeah, they're doing really well. Indians are doing well too, so you can't really forget about the Central and hopefully that hangs around because it'd be nice to see like as great as it would be to see Tampa Bay make the playoffs or the Yankees Red Sox is probably the right pick of the 2 teams out of the American League East. It'd be cool to see Minnesota either usurp Cleveland or be right there in the wild card or Seattle right there. I know Oakland was there last year and they're not far out either, but it would be cool to see some mix up there. So, Minnesota, good for you that you're hanging around right now and figure out your home record because I think you guys can do pretty well.
Yeah, I'm with you. Do you want to jump into pitchers?
Yeah, so let's go right into pitchers, man. I'll let you kick off pitchers.
Okay, so we'll start in the American League. I'm going to go with former Phillies prospect Carlos Carrasco. 2 starts his past 7 days, 11 innings pitched, 16 strikeouts. 0 ERA there, racking him up. A guy that Cleveland really needs, and this guy can play. So, I mean, he's a big guy for the Indians, too, as they try to continue to drive. He's 32, by the way, already. Do you know that?
I did not know he was 32. Yeah. That kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, didn't start the year well. He's got a 6 ERA to start the year, but this is a big week for him as he kind of turns it around with those 2 good starts.
Yeah.
So he's my AL guy. Who do you got in the AL?
I'm going to go with between a couple guys here, but I'm going to go with Domingo Germán from the New York Yankees, 1-1 on the last week, but he's got 14 Ks over 12 and 2/3 innings. Only let up 3 earned runs. He did let up an extra one, but that equates out to a 2.13 ERA and a WHIP sub 1, which I'm a big sub 1 WHIP guy. If you've not been able to tell, J.A. Happ would have been another one that I would have picked, that I could have picked. He's let up a few more runs there. Didn't even record a decision on either of his. Although, you got to know, sub Mendoza opponent's batting average that moves the needle for the G-man. I'll say that. But yeah, I'm gonna go Domingo Germán. Just another guy. The Yankees are surging. You got to give all credit to their pitching, especially with all the different guys that are banged up there. CeCe's been another guy that you could talk about. Last 7 days has been pretty solid, but I think he's only had 1 start. But his last 3 starts have been pretty great. I don't have the Yankees score right in front of me as I'm trying to scroll to get it right away because I know he started tonight. I'm not getting it. They're losing right now, 1-0. They're in LA. But Matt, let's do NL. You want me to start?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, awesome. I am going to go with Patrick Corbin, the big addition for the Washington Nationals. 13.2 innings pitched over the last 7 days, 2-0 ERA or 2-0 record, ERA sub 2 at 0.198, a WHIP of 2/3, 0.66, and an opponent's batting average of 1.46 or of 146. Excuse me, I'm too used to talking about ERAs there. 15 Ks though. You got to love this, the absolute domination from this guy, and the Nationals. This is what they were hoping for. This is why they paid him the big bucks, and he's starting to mow guys down. And again, not to keep it all about the Phillies, but it's a divisional opponent, and seeing what these teams have done in bolstering their starting rotations. This is probably what's going to make the difference in terms of the National League East. And the Nationals, certainly they have their claim to the throne as well. And Corbin's going to certainly help them stay in the conversation.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. Great point, them bringing him in. I'll go with Kyle. We talked about this team already. I'm going to go with Kyle Hendricks of the Cubs. Had a start, seven innings pitched, 11 strikeouts, 0 ERA, WHIP of 0.71. We talked about how they're bouncing back, and he's a really good, underrated pitcher who had a great outing this week to kind of continue their surge. So I'm going to go with Hendricks, and I'm hoping he can continue that. ERA is 3.54, so he's already having a decent year, even though the win-loss is a 1-3. Mm-hmm. So let's see if he can continue that trend. But he'll be my pitcher.
I love it. For us here. Love it. Do you have any rookies you want to talk about?
I didn't have any pick this week, so I will plead the fifth on this one.
Yeah, I don't either. I think we'll save that for May. Although
I will tell you, we'll talk about him again. Once again, he's a Met. But his name's what's his? I'm thinking of his name. Hang on.
Baseman. He is
Alonso. Peter Alonso.
Yep, Alonso. Yeah. Peter Alonso is an absolute stud.
Yep.
I'm really bummed I couldn't pick him up in the fantasy league.
Yeah.
Really bummed. I know nobody cares. I don't have a minor league report to talk about, but one thing I did want to bring up, that there was a promo on April Fool's Day that the Omaha Storm Chasers had, that they were going to change their name to the Omaha Potholes, with a logo of a car falling in basically a sinkhole. And Matt, the team decided to make this a reality. On July 31st, they will be wearing Omaha Pothole jerseys and hats of this cartoon image of a car falling into a giant pothole that looks like a sinkhole. So I had to talk about that a little bit. I didn't know where to categorize it, so I decided to put that in my minor league report for the week.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely hysterical. I have another good one, but Matt, before we get into the rest of the fan favorite segments, we mentioned him before, but talk to us a little bit about Schneckbook, because you mentioned we're getting into the prime gambling time of the year, and I think Logan's got a couple good deals for us.
Well, first of all, the first deal, Schneckbook doesn't do regular season hockey, but they do postseason hockey. And it's the time to jump in now. In fact, you've got 1:48 left in overtime. Hurricanes, Capitals, 3-3, Game 7. You can dive in there. That's the remaining opening series. But if not, jump into the second group here. He's got some great deals coming at you. So take a look there. once again, this is a special time because hockey doesn't exist in the betting world for Schneckbook until the playoffs. So I'm telling you to jump in. Maybe you can make a quick deal with him now with a minute left in OT. You jump on board with
Might be able
Schneckbook.
to. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Friday when they listen to this, so they're going to know who won the game. But yeah, you
True.
mentioned Logan doesn't really do hockey during the regular season because he's a big basketball guy. If you have a prop bet that you want to on any NBA playoffs game, let him know. He will likely take that bet, and he will give you the greatest deal in the world. Matt, tell him about the deal.
So if you'd like to jump in, if you want to jump in with a quick prop bet, he'd love to do it. All right. His fee is only 50%. So he'll take it. And it's just the code is just playoff hockey. So just playoff hockey is all you need. Or if you'd like to get a little more bold, you can go with missing teeth as the code. Now I can't tell you what that deal is. Just type in missing teeth. You see what happens next. One of the current deals he has as well, he's going to be seeing the new Avengers Endgame this coming weekend.
Ooh.
You take a bet with him this weekend. No fee. If you win the bet, he gives you $100. If you lose, he ruins Endgame for you before you see it in theaters. So, if you're willing to jump on with it, go ahead, dive in. But it's a dangerous game you're playing because you might lose a whole 12 years of your life might be ruined. But he's willing to take any bet.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't think anything would make Logan happier. Not the 99% that he normally keeps from you on any bet that you place on Schneckbook. I don't think anything would make him happier than to ruin Endgame for you, especially if you told him your whole life story towards the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think that'd make it even happier for him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. All right, Matt, let's jump into the fan segments, the fan favorites. Do you have any stadium snacks you want to chat about?
I haven't been recently since our last one, so I feel like I can't do it. But go.
I went Wednesday during the day and had a nice tailgate, nice midweek tailgate. Had some really good bagels as a part of the tailgate, which I'd never done for a baseball tailgate. Baseball tailgates, few and far between. Do them mainly for Saturdays. The weekday tailgate, the rare moment for it. The bagels, they were from University City. The guy who was hosting it, his daughter, goes to Drexel. So it's out there in University City. I'm sure you can find it via a quick Google. I didn't write the name down, but I did. Easter came and went this past Sunday. This is something I think I talk about a little bit, but I give up beer for Lent usually. Had a couple spike seltzers at the games. I had a tailgate too. Spike seltzer, man. I've come around on it. At first, I was like, "Oh, it's the seltzer. Okay. There's the seltzer." Don't knock the spike seltzer. You're getting very few calories. You're getting a lot of alcohol. It was a good play. It was a strong play throughout the 40 days and 40 nights of Lent for me.
All right. I like it. I got to be honest with you. I had some shandies this past weekend. Some wine and people.
I'm so excited to have the shandies again.
I didn't mind it either.
It's a perfect golf drink too, or no, the perfect golf drink's a Transfusion, or
true. The
Pine Valley. But the shandy's a good beer choice.
Yes. Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm getting older. We're getting older. I'm liking the shandies better and better. Sorry, it happens.
Town, as my grandfather called.
Yeah, but it happens. It's okay. It's allowed.
Beer corners you want to tell us about though?
Oh God, I actually did have something this weekend. Wait. Hold on. What did I just have this weekend that I really liked? Well, there's a couple IPAs out right now from Victory. One is Cloudwalker IPA. Really enjoyed
I've heard that's really good. I think I've had it before, but I heard this year's batch is great.
Yeah, so I definitely recommend if you see a Cloudwalker to pick that one up. I've been kind of getting into those kinds of IPAs, the hazy IPAs, if you will. So Cloudwalker was one I had as well. There was another Victory I had too that I really liked. But definitely recommend Cloudwalker. Really, really enjoyed that. 6.8%. So not necessarily an easy beer, but No Brainer. That was the other one. No Brainer IPA was the other one from Victory. I had both over the weekend. Really liked both of those.
It's good to know.
Yeah, and I had a good group of Saranaks. Don't remember all the names of them, but I had a really good Saranac
beer. They only come down to they come down here. I was about to say down south, but they come down to Pennsylvania every so often, but it's good selection usually.
Yeah, and then like I said, I'm getting really into these hazies. The other one is, and it's kind of got a weird can, but Bell's Official is the name. So it's another hazy IPA, pretty much. I think it's brand new. I've never seen it before from Bell's. Had one on the golf course Sunday and really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. So another one to take a look at. But I'm very into the hazy IPAs right now. Hopefully, I can find some at the ballpark this summer too.
Yeah, hell yeah! I was drinking a beer I had originally with you, the Mystic Mama by Jackie O's. Drinking that before. Now we're now drinking the Rheingeist Truth IPA. Pretty solid here. Yeah, both in that sort of more pungent IPA, and it's been nice to get back on the beer game. I've just been doing strictly Yinglings and Bud Lights, and I think Bud Light is the drink of choice for the Sixers playoffs. But no Sixers game tonight. Can go into the IPAs. Feel a little safe there.
There you go.
Moving on. Do you have any bleacher creatures? Any crazy stories you saw from this week?
Like I said, I gotta plead the fifth on that one as well. Not having been.
I got one that's gonna warm your heart, man.
Go ahead.
So the Pirates called up an outfielder named Cole Tucker this past weekend, and in his MLB debut, his dad was in the audience. Cole Tucker hits a bomb, and his dad they cut to his dad. His hands are straight up wearing the Cole Tucker jersey and just going absolutely ape shit. And you can just see, you can read his lips perfectly saying, "Are you fucking kidding me?" His dad going nuts. It's an awesome moment. It's just one of those like, the quintessential father-son having a catch the end of Field of Dreams that gets you all teared up. This is one of those things where, the parents invest so much of their time and energy into helping their kids realize their dreams, and it becomes their dreams too. And you can tell for this guy to see Mr. Tucker. I don't have his first name in front of me, but for him to see, obviously he knew his kid was going to be good, but to see right off the bat that his son hits an absolute dinger, and just go nuts like that. It was a pretty awesome moment. If you haven't seen the video, go check it out. It made its rounds. It made the rounds around Instagram. And yeah, it's why sports are just fucking awesome.
Yeah, I would tell you this too. If you haven't seen the bleacher creatures that occupy these game sevens of hockey,
yes,
I recommend just tuning in to hear this. The San Jose Sharks, their fans were just outrageous. And also
even Carolina. It's not game 7. It was game 6. That was their last game there. Carolina was absolutely nuts. And I still think that they should move to Charlotte just because that's where all the other teams are in North Carolina. But the people of Raleigh love the Hurricanes.
No, I agree. And actually, the Portland Trailblazers, I was also impressed with their fans. Obviously, we don't see this in baseball right now just because it's so early in the season. It'll grow.
Yeah.
It'll grow. So it's great, though, to see great home
fans. You saw a lot of it, though.
So much fun.
You saw a lot of it with the Rockies this past weekend. Not to keep it all on the Phillies. I know, some people, Greg, will like to criticize us for keeping it all on the Phillies. But the Rockies, I watch those games every day. The Rockies, they were, it was pretty lively crowd there. And and the Rockies, they've won 8 of their last 10, but they're still sub 500. Obviously, this team's had a lot of recent success, so they, are still going to pack their stadium because of what they have done and the potential of what they could still do this year, especially in the NL West, a division that's wide open right now. But that fan base and what they were in, just how lively they were during a mid to late April weekend series is goddamn impressive.
It is. Oh, I agree. Yeah. I agree. And they're a good team. So we'll see how they keep going with that. As they
anything else? Any games you're looking forward to this week? I know we said the Phillies are hosting the Marlins. Any other series that you've got your eye on?
Because of everything else that's going on, other than maybe trying to see if I can find the game on with Vlad Jr. I am really.
I'm sure MLB Network will have it.
Yeah, I am really excited though. I really want to see the Phillies bounce back. So I guess
Yeah.
to me, that's where my mind will be. I will say though, Chicago, Arizona is happening. Arizona, we didn't
Yes.
talk about them, is having a hot moment right now as well. So we might be talking about them next week if they can have a great weekend here too.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. If they have a really good weekend, it'll be really interesting to see. San Diego comes out east to Washington. I think that's going to be actually really interesting to keep an eye out on.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, San Diego, we're kind of also a little bit under the radar at 14-11 right now.
that's true. With Machado and Tatis Jr. had just great
Yeah,
start
they're both
there.
having
Yep.
great starts. Cleveland,
Mhm.
Houston. I mean, that's the ESPN game on Sunday night, and it's I mean, it's a potential playoff matchup, so you can't really discount that there. But yeah, I mean, I'm in a similar boat, Matt. We're right in the thick of the hockey and baseball playoffs, or hockey and basketball playoffs, excuse me. Really getting into the real thick of it. They're about to start round two. The hockey playoffs start round two Thursday night, so they will have already started by the time you listen to this. Again, we recorded this Wednesday night, as the Caps and Hurricanes are going to double overtime. So you had the pleasure of knowing who won that game. Congratulations.
See what
Sixers
happens.
play their game one on Saturday officially, and I mean it's just going to be a ton of fun. It's almost like the Olympics, how you have something different to turn on every night, if not dual screen it, and it's just incredible. But Matt, I think that's going to do it.
Yeah,
All right, man. Well, thank you as
great baseball
always.
this weekend. Can't wait.
Great baseball this weekend. Thank you for doing the double pod. For those
No
that
problem.
couldn't figure this out, we recorded this and the NFL draft preview back to back, and we dropped the NFL draft preview Thursday. This got dropped Friday because we wanted to space it out. So, Matt, thank you for being the trooper as always. You are the MVP. You led the way on the draft pod, and you were the stalwart, the truth, as we've come to know you of this podcast. So thank you, my man. Could
No
not
problem.
appreciate it anymore. Make sure that you go follow us on iTunes, search the Bullpen Cart, Stitcher, Spotify, Podcoin, wherever you get your podcasts. Again, search the Bullpen Cart. You can find this show, Blue Line Icing, which myself, Jared Barnes, and Greg Piatelli are going to be back on Sunday afternoon recording, dropping Monday morning. Our second round previews slash hopefully not correcting ourselves. I'm gonna try to put up a blog on Thursday, so should already be up on thunderblogsports.com with our picks for the second round of the NHL playoffs. Maybe we'll get Matty D's in there as well. And he can tell us how much of idiots we were for the first round, depending on this last game goes. I know you like that. But yeah, go follow us on thunderblogsports.com, ThunderBLG on Twitter. For my man, Matty D, though, that is going to do it. Have a great weekend, everybody. And let's go, Phils.
Go Phils.